911, what's your emergency?
Oh, get me the police, please. Oh, my daughter was murdered.
What did your daughter do?
She's been murdered.
She's been tortured, handcuffed behind her back.
You had a young teacher murdered in her own condo.
She was really loved. And so everything about her just said, why was she the one chosen to be murdered?
It was an absolute whodunit. Nobody had any idea.
In my 32 years of police work, it's the only case involving a homicide where I had any actual handcuffs.
Could be someone either in security or law enforcement.
You wait for technology to catch up, and the technology caught up.
If you're the bad guys and you left us your DNA, I don't care if it was 1950, we're still coming for you. And we're going to find you.
Over County 911, what's the address of your emergency? Okay, your wife is in a bar, you said she's unresponsive?
This is what he's going to tell you.
How to get out of that situation.
And I grabbed the gun.
Trying to find the first place to put a body.
No, sir.
The only thing they could do was kill him.
You want to say anything? We, the jury, and to find the defendant.
Well, Beaumont sits about an hour and a half east of Houston.
It's heavy in the oil and gas industry, refineries.
Beaumont has a history of old oil money. The Spindletop oil boom was here, and a lot of the founding families are still in the area.
Including the Edwards family.
They've always been a pillar of the community, two of the most kind and honest people that have really ever lived here.
In 1995, Mary and Lum Edwards were the proud parents of a son and identical twin daughters.
Catherine and her twin sister Allison were fantastic people, full of energy, very giving. They were wonderful girls.
They both went to the same college. They were both teachers.
Back in 1995, 1996, it was a small, comfortable city, lots of good people with a very low crime rate, which made this crime even more shocking.
911, what's your emergency?
You've got to go to my sister's house.
Who's your sister?
Catherine Edwards.
Catherine Edwards?
Yes.
Okay, how old is she?
31.
31?
Yes.
Okay, who's over there with her?
My family's over there, but I don't think she's alive.
Why don't you think she's alive?
Because my dad was hysterical and he wouldn't tell me.
That 911 call tears at your heart, doesn't it?
What's your emergency?
Oh, get me the police, please.
What's going on, ma'am?
My daughter murdered.
Ma'am, I can't understand.
Oh, my daughter was murdered. We just found her.
What did your daughter do?
She's been murdered.
I don't know if there is a word to describe the grief that you could hear in those phone calls.
The parents had gone to Catherine's townhouse when she had failed to show up for their weekly family lunch.
We came over here and found her. She's handcuffed. She's been tortured.
Okay, what do you mean she's handcuffed?
Handcuffed behind her back.
Okay.
And she's I think they drowned her. Okay. Found her laying sideways over the bathtub.
Does she have a boyfriend, maybe a fight or anything?
None that lives here.
Okay, but there was no one else in the house when y'all showed up?
No, she lives alone.
Okay.
We just found her.
Okay, well, they're on their way right this minute, okay? Okay?
All right.
You gonna be all right?
When you hear that call, you hear the sheer agony and terror of a mother finding her daughter murdered, half naked, slumped over a bathtub, and in her words, tortured.
Okay, complainant was very irate. She just advises that her daughter has been mutilated, that she is handcuffed. They think that she has been drowned.
Go ahead and send out JP, ID, and get an investigator going. Hear that scene, don't touch anything until we get out there. Just to get your receiver.
Let's see.
The police arrived. Nothing's disturbed on the first floor.
There was no indication of break-in on the front door.
The sliding back door, glass door that led out to the back patio is locked.
But when they went upstairs, it splits. There's a bathroom straight ahead, which is where she was found. She was nude from the waist down, and her hands were handcuffed behind her back.
It was Smith & Wesson handcuffs, which were common for police officers to carry. It sets off two red flags. One is that this person came ready to do something. They were ready to subdue her. And second, it set off a kind of a scare because it could be someone either in security or law enforcement.
And there's a bedroom to the right, which is where she had been sleeping.
Bedroom was disheveled up around the bedspread, the comforter, the sheets, everything just looked like there had been some kind of struggle on top of that bed. There was semen found on the comforter, and that's what ended up being tested along with swabs from her body.
Any murder scene is usually bad, but this one was exceptionally bad. You had a young teacher murdered in her own condo. Now, the community is outraged, scared. There's an emotional aspect of it. You need to find somebody fast.
Detectives wanted to know if Catherine, an elementary school fifth-grade teacher, had anyone or anything in her background that would offer a clue.
There was not one bad thing we could find someone who could say about her. She was just a joy to be around. She was a nice woman. She was extremely kind, and she just recently got into a Bible study group that she was really loved. And so everything about her just said, why was she the one chosen to be murdered? In the first week or two, they were concentrating on, ex-boyfriend. He was a suspect from the start, and they were just sure it was going to be him. He was considered abusive verbally. They had just recently broke up.
But the ex-boyfriend's DNA was not a match, and he had an alibi.
He really went through the ringer, but he didn't have anything to do with it.
She kept a journal, which was good because they were able to get a lot of names out of that journal.
Other people that she had dated were interviewed, and everybody voluntarily gave a sample. There were sex offenders that were approached and gave samples. That DNA was entered into CODIS, and there was never any hits, meaning that person had never been arrested, never been to prison. So we didn't have anybody that had a criminal record. I think this case probably had more DNA collected and tested in it than any other case in the history of Beaumont PD.
And then police had to come to terms with the use of the handcuffs in the crime.
In my 32 years of police work, it's the only case involving a homicide where I had any actual handcuffs. I've had bindings before, ropes, different things like that, but I'd never seen a pair of handcuffs used before, and haven't since, for that matter. We believe that maybe this is some policeman that she knew that she allowed to come in the house. Is this someone that could have been at the crime scene with us that day? People don't have handcuffs, especially, a pair of Smith & Wesson brand handcuffs. They're sort of expensive. It's not just an item that you would have for no reason.
Everybody was looking over their shoulders wondering, could it possibly be? Could it possibly be? I think it made it more difficult for the detectives because you never knew who to share details with.
Beaumont Police Department had all the law enforcement turn in their handcuffs. They looked at prior misbehaviors by law enforcement individuals, and they went and checked them and had them do DNA samples, and of course those were negative.
As the years went by, through presidents, wars, hurricanes, the case files sat on the shelf.
It just went totally cold. They had no more ideas, no more suspects. They just didn't have anything.
It was an absolute whodunit. This was a complete whodunit. Nobody had any idea.
For something as old as it was, there were still so many people that remembered everything about it. She was a special person to a lot of people. Ultimately, our thoughts were reprocessing of the evidence using modern DNA technology. If you're the bad guys and you left us your DNA, I don't care if it was 1950, we're still coming for you. And we're gonna find you.
The Lone Ranger.
The legends of the Texas Rangers, masked and otherwise, have long been part of American folklore.
And Wheaties present Joel McRae in Tales of the Texas Rangers.
famed for their 10-gallon hats and bringing law and order to the Wild West.
Will make up the most famous and oldest law enforcement body in North America.
But in the 21st century, Rangers like Brendan Bess became better known in Texas for cracking difficult, cold cases.
It's a different way of police work. Being able to bring answers to a family is very rewarding, and it is absolutely a driving force in anyone that works cold cases, to be able to give answers to those loved ones.
The family of Catherine Edwards had gone 25 years without answers when Ranger Bess took on the case. Her parents had passed away without ever knowing who killed their daughter.
It's one of those that just really tugs at your heart. It was important to everyone in Beaumont, of course. It was important to Beaumont PD and the Texas Rangers.
And in April of 2020, Ranger Bess teamed up with a husband-wife detective team from the Beaumont Police Department, Tina and Aaron Llewellyn, to take on Catherine's case.
I don't believe that anybody should be buried in a filing cabinet, and I just don't think that cases should be forgotten and just forgotten over time. So we worked our normal, 8 to 5 job during the day, and then came home and worked on it till the wee hours of the morning.
You wait for technology to catch up, and the technology caught up.
The detective sent the DNA collected from the crime scene 25 years earlier to a private lab that specializes in what's called forensic genetic genealogy.
They're building their own database of people who voluntarily want to give their DNA to help solve crimes.
They created a profile on it and entered it into a computer program known as GEDmatch. And from there, that gave us distant relatives that were related to our suspect.
And one name kept popping up, a woman who lived in Louisiana, Shara LaPointe.
I got a phone call from Detective Aaron Llewellyn telling me that they were looking for, working a cold case, looking for the perpetrator, and that my father-in-law's kit was one of the highest matches that they were looking at. That my father-in-law definitely was related to a murderer.
Shara had been researching her own family tree as a hobby, but now it became much more serious.
I agreed to do whatever I could to help them out.
Crazy, absolutely insane. One of the persons that helped solve the crime is a 164th cousin to our suspect.
I can tell you that when we finished building this tree, we had 7,409 people in this family tree. We were able to get it down to 2 possible brothers. And that's when they realized that one of them did have a criminal background.
His name was Clayton Foreman.
He had lived in Beaumont. He had married here. He'd gone to high school in Beaumont, the same high school that Catherine and her sister went to.
He was a year or 2 older than them. Catherine and Allison were both very good friends with his first wife, and in fact, they were both bridesmaids in his first wedding. I ran his name through a database that I had access to, and that's when I discovered that he had a sexual assault in the early 80s. And when I started reviewing that case file, I saw many similarities between the Catherine Edwards case and his sexual assault back in 1981.
He was convicted of aggravated assault on a plea bargain and got 3 years probation. It was infuriating to hear how that case was handled.
He had not been arrested for a crime that mandated DNA collection, so he would not have been in the system.
Foreman was found living in Reynoldsburg, Ohio, working as an Uber driver and a debt collector.
The next step, we reach out through the FBI, through the sheriff's office where Foreman was, reached out to them for assistance to help us in doing what we call a trash run. Items that a person discards into their trash, puts on the curb. They had no right to privacy to those products, that junk that they throw away.
There was hair, there was prescription bottles, plasticware like a fork and knife and a spoon.
They actually wanted the spoons, Dairy Queen plastic spoons, and they were able to get a single male profile from one of the spoons. I do remember the lab tech telling Lou, my husband, it was a match, go get his ass.
Just a few more minutes here, Mr. Foreman. They're finishing up, and they'll be right in. All right, sir.
Foreman had been brought in by the local police on a ruse.
Like a missing purse, and him being an Uber driver, and one of his clients claimed her purse was missing.
Hey, how's it going? How you? Mr. Foreman, right? Yes, sir. Okay. We'll introduce ourselves. Detective Aaron Llewellyn with the Vermont Police Department. Brandon Bettis with the Texas Rangers out of Liberty.
We're here about a crime, and we'll get into that. We'll talk to you about that and what we're here for. But we want you to know that, as a matter of fact, why don't we trade seats right here?
The strategy was get him to talking, get him comfortable, make sure that he understood that he could leave at any time.
Grab that door and open it. Grab it and open it. Okay, you can close it. So you see the door's not locked.
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay.
Just to show that you could leave at any moment. If he's in custody, it's not a voluntary statement, then we got a problem.
You're not under arrest. You're not in trouble. Nothing. Okay? Would you like to stay and talk to us? I understand you don't know what it's about, but are you okay with us talking to you at least for right now?
You can talk to me, yes, sir.
Great. Okay. So what we're here about is we're cold case investigators. So the crime that we're looking at is the murder of Mary Catherine Edwards. Today is April the 29th, 2021. Tell us your whole name and date of birth.
Clayton Bernard Foreman.
He'd been able to live all these years a free man. He'd lived 30 years and never got caught.
Were you aware of the crime even?
No.
You didn't know the crime occurred?
No, sir.
Okay. You didn't know that Catherine Edwards was murdered?
No, sir.
This was me, the dumb old country boy with the cowboy hat on, that's there just asking questions of him, playing that role of, Clayton Foreman thinks he's smarter than I am.
These are dumb questions. I'm sorry I got to ask you. Never, obviously, had sex with her?
No.
Never? Did you ever go in her house at all? Any house that she ever lived in?
No.
Okay. And so where she was, the address where she was killed, what is that?
1005 Park Meadow, it's off of Manion Drive.
Does that ring a bell with you at all?
I don't know where that's at.
Everything was a no, and we knew the answers were yes. I mean, we knew the answers were, yeah, your DNA is there. Yes, we know you were there. We know that she was in your wedding.
Yeah, you do remember who I'm talking about, though, right?
Yes.
Twins, Catherine and Allison.
I think they were bridesmaids for my ex-wife.
That's right. They were friends with her. Do you remember what she looks like?
Yeah, I guess. Kind of funny. Yeah.
That's her?
I guess. Or it could be her sister.
Okay. Well, is there anything, looking at her picture, does that jog any memories for you?
From the wedding, yeah.
Well, that's it. Nothing else. Have you ever seen her case? A lot of these cases get highlighted on TV shows.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
So he knew what we were there for. He just didn't know what we had.
My next question to you would be, who do you think could do something like this? Who would have killed her? But you didn't even know until we told you today that she was not with us anymore.
Right. So I have no idea.
Because your only contact was at the wedding.
That's correct.
Yeah, I'm sure on that. You never went into her house, for sure on that. As far as you remember, you don't even remember the house or seeing the house or anything like that?
I don't even know where they live.
Okay.
Ranger Bess was essentially getting Foreman to rule out any other explanation for his DNA being found on Catherine or in her home.
Peter said, yeah, we had a relationship. I came over to her house, we had sex, and it was consensual. Well, then, you don't have this aha moment because you still got ex-boyfriend as a suspect. Did he come over afterwards and kill her? There's all kinds of things that could have happened.
Never went to her house, 100% on that.
Yes, sir.
Never had sex with her, 100% on that.
Yes, sir.
Our strategy was to try to get as many denials as we could get.
I've been talking a lot. I've been asking a lot of questions. We want to give you a chance to say anything that you might want to say or tell us, hey, have you thought of this? So we'll give you the floor.
Like, I don't know anything.
Okay.
No.
Nothing at all. No, nothing you would lead us to, no, people to look at.
I've lived in Texas for 14 years.
Yeah. Well, and this happened 26 years ago.
Like I think I was living in Houston at that time.
And what do your friends call you?
Clay.
Clay. Do you mind if I call you Clay?
No, fine.
All right. Clay, I'm gonna level with you. Okay. Right here and now, I want you to hear me real close.
All right, sir.
It was a very easy, relaxed, laid-back interview until he was confronted with the fact that we had his DNA.
I'm no scientist, but what I do know is about DNA and about how DNA works in placing someone in a crime scene. And what I'm going to tell you right now is your DNA was on Catherine's bed and was inside Catherine.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how I got there, but per se it was there.
There's only one way for it to get there.
Okay.
And that's by you putting it there. And it's semen and sperm. And it's yours.
Okay.
Do you understand that? Do you understand the implications of that? The day that she died, the night that she died, your DNA is in her and your DNA is on her bedspread. Your DNA is in her vagina and your DNA is in her rectum. And you're sitting here telling me, you understand DNA?
Yes, sir.
You understand that?
Yes, sir.
There's nobody else's DNA that was inside her, and there's nobody else's DNA that was on that comforter on that bed. And the only way for that to have gotten there would have been for you putting it there. Now, I don't want you to say anything right this second. I want you to think about the next words that come out of your mouth. I want you to think very hard about that. You're a smart guy. There's no doubt about it.
I really felt that he was going to confess in the end. When he was confronted with the fact that we had his DNA, that he would confess.
What I asked you is, now, to be honest with us completely, and tell us, how did that happen?
I'm not going to say anything. If I need an attorney now, I think.
You probably need one, or you do need one.
If you're saying I did that, then I probably need an attorney to talk to.
That's up to you. If you want an attorney, you can get an attorney. That's absolutely fine. It is. We don't hold that against you, anything like that. You're here voluntarily. You get to walk out of that door right now. You do, or whenever you want to, you can walk out of it right now. We're giving you that shot to tell us your side. But if you want to not talk, and if you want an attorney, we're good with that too. That's up to you, though.
I understand. That's the route I'll take.
He was allowed to get up and walk out of the room. Now, he didn't know that 20 feet away, all those police officers were just waiting on him to arrest him.
You can hear as they walk out the door, you hear them, it's not like 2 or 3 steps when you hear Brandon Best telling.
You're under arrest for murder.
They arrested him using the cuffs that he used on Catherine Edwards.
That was a very rewarding feeling. Hey, just so you know, these are the handcuffs that you put on Catherine the day you killed her.
It took nearly 30 years, but today the family of Mary Catherine Edwards faced her accused killer. If convicted, he's facing life in prison.
People that knew him watched the trial. They said he was such a nice guy. He absolutely was a devil in disguise.
Good morning. Good morning. This is not going to be easy for a lot of people, but it's been a long time coming. It's going to take a little bit of work to get through thinking about that, because what happens over 29 years? Memories fade, witnesses have died. Matter of fact, you're going to find out that Mary Catherine Edwards' mom and dad and brother passed before they could actually get to see this day. You're going to hear 911 calls. You're going to hear the emotion. You're going to hear how Catherine's mother tells the 911 operator that her daughter has been tortured.
We came over here and found her. She's handcuffed. She's been tortured. Oh, Jesus.
So hearing their voice, we've got two deceased people crying out in agony over their deceased daughter. It kind of gets the jury into the story.
Clayton Foreman denies ever having any contact with her, other than when she was in his wedding years before with his wife. So there's no reason for his DNA to be on Mary Catherine Edwards. I'm confident that when you look at everything that we're going to show you, you're going to find out that Clayton Foreman sexually assaulted, killed Mary Catherine Edwards.
Mr. Burbank, you want to make an opening statement at this time?
No, Your Honor. Defense reserves their right in case you chief.
You may.
But prosecutors knew that Foreman, in jailhouse phone calls, had been telling friends that he was confident he could beat the charge.
Like I said, I'm pumped up about it right now. My plan is to get the acquittal. Because we got things to do. Screw this place.
State calls Allison Mercado. Are you related to Mary Catherine Edwards?
Yes, she was my twin sister.
Allison described the horrifying discovery her parents made at Catherine's home.
So I call, and my dad answered the phone. And he was frantic. And he said, your sister's dead, your sister's dead. Sorry. I remember we just cried. We just sat in my living room and cried and cried and cried. And forever I didn't know what happened to her. It was just that she was gone was all I knew.
When you talked to your dad, when your dad told you about his daughter, had you ever heard your dad like that?
Never in my life. I mean, I can still hear it. So no, it was horrible. They were never the same. I think they died a little bit too, and she did. They were never the same.
That's what it's showing.
In his jailhouse phone calls with friends, Foreman said his lawyer was going to give Allison a hard time going into Catherine's background in dating.
Burbank told me a long time ago because she had multiple men she was with. Multiple men. More than 10. Because she's a school teacher, they make out to be like she's... Right. And she's really not. So I'm sure some of this is going to come out.
Catherine dated several people, correct?
Correct.
When did David come into the picture?
David was her college boyfriend.
And in fact, would you agree with me, at times it got a little bit scary between her and David?
At times.
Was physical violence?
I wouldn't... No, I'm not going to say there was physical violence. He did not hit her. No. There was one incident.
Was that when he strangled her or tried to strangle her?
I don't remember saying that. I don't remember that she... I remember they had a heated fight one time and that he was kind of on top of her.
Pushed her down.
Yeah. But he wasn't a violent guy.
And just prior to Catherine's passing, did you and Catherine have a conversation that she was getting back with David?
No. We had a conversation that they were breaking up for good. And that's why they had a really heated argument the Thursday night before she died, and it was it. That was it. They were done forever.
You know, he was ruled out with DNA. He was ruled out with an alibi. This poor guy, just his life was ruined because of it. He talks about he had to get counseling, everything, because of the way this affected his life.
But Clayton Foreman continued to tell friends he might soon be a free man.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to hear that not guilty verdict.
Can you state your name for the record, please? Charles Minor Harvey, M.D.
Dr. Harvey had conducted the autopsy on Catherine Edwards back in 1995.
He was very old and physically could not make the trip. We had to secure the permission from the court for him to testify via Zoom.
The prosecution needed the doctor to prove the element of homicide.
Probably the most important witness if you really get down to it.
Is it possible that while someone was trying to drown them, they asphyxiated them by holding them down and caused that type of death?
By pressing on them so that she couldn't breathe, yes.
And what was the manner of death, in your opinion?
And the manner of death, it was a homicide.
Could you tell the court your name?
Paula.
Back on July 2nd of 1981, how old were you?
I was 19.
As the prosecution prepared to close out its case, there was a surprise witness, the woman who Clayton Foreman had raped and sodomized years before the murder of Catherine Edwards.
She stood in the place of Catherine, and they even look a little alike.
We have somebody else that he did this to, and it was pretty similar.
And do you see that person here in the courtroom here today?
Yes, sir.
Would you please point to him and identify an article of clothing on him?
A gray shirt.
Super clear. This man right here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You're going to let the witness identify the defendant, Clayton Foreman?
The record shall so show.
You sure it's him?
Yes, sir.
Even though 40 years have passed?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And that was probably the bravest thing I've ever seen in my life, because she went through horrendous sexual assault, and that hurt her. It hurt me just to listen to her.
Did the defendant claim to be a policeman?
He did.
Okay. So did you get into his car?
I did.
Okay. At some point, did you realize you weren't going to your house?
Yes.
What were your feelings at that particular time?
Just scared, confused.
This is 40-something years ago, and you're still shaking. Where did he drive you?
I don't.
Was it a road or was it in the middle of a field?
It was a field.
At that point, did the defendant's demeanor start changing?
Yes.
How so?
He's mean.
Did you start crying?
Yes, I did.
Did he tell you anything when you started crying?
Yeah, to stop and to shut up.
To shut up?
To stop.
And he told you to shut up? Is that correct?
Yes.
Did he say anything about what he wanted you to do?
He just told me to get in the back seat.
Did he say if you go along with this? You remember?
I don't.
Right.
I don't.
Did you get into the back?
I did.
When he got into the back, what did he do?
Well, first he tied my hands back.
He tied your hands behind your back?
Yes.
You remember what he tied your hands behind your back?
It was like a belt.
A belt? Did he threaten to cut your throat if you didn't?
Yes.
That man right there threatened to cut your throat if you didn't comply?
Yes.
So did you comply?
I did.
Were you crying?
I was.
Were you terrified?
I was.
What's the first thing he made you do to him? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, Paula.
I'm sorry.
We're going to take it just as sharp.
No, I'm fine.
In terms of the most gut-wrenching testimony that the jury heard, I would say she's pretty much at the top of the list.
You're doing great. You hang in there. That's all good there. That's the bravest person I know.
At the time, she had gone along with the plea bargain that avoided the trial and kept Foreman out of the news and out of prison.
She said she's carried that guilt for a long time.
You came here today to tell this jury what happened to you 42, 43 years ago, right?
Yes.
Who did you do that for?
For Catherine.
That's the witness.
The defense chose not to challenge her account of what Foreman did to her.
If I were in Mr. Burbank's shoes, I don't know that I would want to push the envelope there. You can do a lot more harm than good for your case.
She was amazingly courageous, and if nothing else, I mean, this case allowed her to have her day, and she was absolutely outstanding.
Thanks, Court. Let's talk about what we know. She's dead. She didn't die of natural causes. She died because that man intentionally put her over a tub, mashed her down, held her down, was trying to drown her, and ended up asphyxiating her. Can you imagine finding your daughter that way? Do you need to really hear any more? I mean, it's his stuff inside of her. We know that. It's not anybody else's. And it wasn't done voluntarily. You know that because he killed her when he did it. You know that because his stuff's in her. She's found dead, cuffed behind her back. Mary Catherine Edwards was let down by people ignoring evidence. And I'm asking you, don't make the same mistake. Don't ignore the evidence. The evidence is there. It's clear. It's not difficult. It's simple. Hold Clayton and our Foreman responsible for what he did to that woman January 14th, 1995. Thank you.
Mr. Burbank, on behalf of the defense, when you were there,
Please, court, counsel. This is kind of a unique trial, though, because it spans over 29 years. There are no winners in this case. And I want to tell you my condolences to the family, too, because it's very hard, because you would think after almost 3 decades that this would be put to rest and that they could carry on with the life, and I would imagine that this has opened up all the wounds. Yes, his DNA showed up. And yes, they took that DNA, and I want to say by luck, but probably good investigative skills, that they came up with possible suspect. Yeah, they matched. Getting around that. Miss Ramsey. I mean, it's traumatic. But there again, listen to what she said. Okay? Wouldn't want anybody. I'm here, I don't cry. I'm here to tell you that. Her perception of sexually assaulted, I'm not going to challenge because that's hers. And it's terrible, and you saw how she acted.
My face immediately got red. How did he word that? Her perception of being sexually assaulted. It insulted me and it insulted her.
You may not like him because of what people said. I hope that is not an easy decision because, as I said, both sides is very painful. And it isn't. But you all been called upon to make sure you value or you judge the credibility of the witnesses, but you apply it, as I say, to the law. In this case, I submit to you, they have not met their burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Thank you all very much for your time.
We have all, myself included, have been waiting 29 years, holding our breath to bring justice to this family, to us. You will be the last voice that will speak for Catherine. Make it worthy of her. You are the voice of this family, her friends, her students, and parents. Today, y'all can choose to be the champions of them, or we can just fail them once again. And you can do it with one word, and you come back guilty.
At this time, please bring the jury has reached a verdict in this case. Is that so, sir?
Yes, sir.
I don't think they were out longer than an hour.
If you would be so kind, pass the documents to the bailiff. Thank you.
I was sitting in there holding hands with Tina, holding hands with a student of Catherine that she had taught in second grade. You know, we're squeezing hands.
In cause number 21-38410, the state of Texas versus Clayton Bernard Foreman. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of the offense of capital murder as charged in the indictment.
I don't think I've ever felt this good about a verdict.
There was just this huge relief and tears just flowing out of, I think, everyone in that courtroom other than Clayton Bernard Foreman. He showed no remorse, absolutely no remorse, no emotion.
Under Texas law, the brutality of the murder alone is not enough to impose the death penalty.
And specifically, it has to be that we have to prove a future danger. Although we definitely have our suspicions, we didn't have any direct proof that Clayton Foreman continued to engage in these kind of crimes after Catherine Edwards.
Clayton Bernard Foreman, the only option is life imprisonment. And there is parole, which I believe is 40 years.
He's not going to live to see that day.
I'm extremely happy that he will be spending the remainder of his days in a Texas prison system that has no air conditioner.
And Foreman became convinced that it was Texas Ranger Brendan Bess who was responsible for all of his problems.
You still remember who he is and what he was? Oh, I'll remember. You're right. Yeah. Got the SOB. He was being the bad cop. And that's how they play it. He was really an SOB.
He's a vile human being. Do I plan on, at some point in time, going back to see him? Absolutely. I believe there's more there. Figuring out what makes his clock tick will potentially lead us to other victims.
I think you're going to see more and more of these cases get solved on a much more frequent basis. And those people that he did something really bad are going to get that mysterious knock on the door one day.
No other case will ever be this case. Nothing will be Catherine again.
I mean, everywhere you turn, she touched so many people's lives.
I was so satisfied that after all these years, that we got to get them some kind of justice.